Hey, good morning. It's Patricia Murphy. It's Wednesday. This is Seattle Now. Crows. If you live in or around Seattle, you live with them. And mostly, it's okay. But sometimes...
This is a message regarding crows and being attacked by crows. I live by Green Lake. 2 crows think that my front yard is owned by them every time I come out of the house. They bomb dive my head. So please advise. Thank you.
In a minute, the University of Washington's Dr. Kaeli Swift will help us understand what's going on when crows attack. But first, let's get you caught up. Somebody is $250,000 richer today thanks to modern medicine and some luck. The state picked its first winner of its Shot of a Lifetime drawing yesterday. If it's you, expect a call. But, of course, beware of scammers. As a reminder, lottery officials will never ask for sensitive information like a social security number or any banking information. Good news if you've been missing friends and relatives in Vancouver, BC. It looks like Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is set to open the border again, maybe as soon as this month. All non-essential travel between the U.S. and Canada has been halted since March 2020. But yesterday, Trudeau said he's working on a plan to allow fully vaccinated people to enter the country in the coming weeks. Reuters reports that just over 40% of Americans have been fully vaccinated, compared to just 8% of Canadians. And if you've got a hike or camping trip coming up but don't have a Discover Pass, check the Seattle Public Library. They're now available to borrow for up to 2 weeks. The Discover Pass is required if you're headed out to public lands. If you do want to check one out, you should definitely plan ahead. These passes are pretty popular.
Hey Trish, it's Isolde Raftery. I just wanted to tell you about getting dive bombed the other day. And by dive bomb, I mean crow dive bombed. I was walking near my house. I was on a conference call, and all of a sudden I felt like maybe a swing hit me in the head. And then I looked, and it was a crow. And as it dived onto my head, actually, its talons kind of gave me a little scalp massage, which wasn't totally unpleasant. It was a little surprising. And then just when I thought it was done, I was like, okay, that happened. It swooped down again. So I started running. I don't know what was going on. Probably a baby in the neighborhood. I understand. I'm a mom too. All right. I hope you're having a great day. Bye.
Oh my gosh, what a way to start the day. Thank you to my KUOW coworker Isolde for sending us that story. Crow dive bombings are pretty common this time of year, at least if you live in the Seattle area. I wanted to know what's going on when the crows dive bomb and what we should do. So I met up with Dr. Kaeli Swift. She has a PhD in avian ecology, and we sat down near a crow nest at Seward Park.
I've got my eyes up because part of the reason that I picked this particular crow nest is because the female is sort of locally famous because she's a caramel crow, which is just a color morph. So she's like a cappuccino colored crow.
That beautiful crow's name is Ferdinand. And Kaeli told me Isolde was right on the money on why crows in her neighborhood were dive bombing her. They were probably trying to protect their babies.
Baby crows will actually leave the nest before they're completely flighted. Oh. Open cup style nests, which is the traditional bird nest I suspect most people think of when they picture what a bird nest looks like. Because they're so exposed, they're very vulnerable to predation. And so if something like a bald eagle, a red-tailed hawk, or a Cooper's hawk spies that nest full of these big fat nestlings, they're in a very dangerous situation. And so they'll end up jumping out of the nest before they're completely developed so that they have a better chance of survival on the ground where they can run around, hide under trees, hide under bushes. They're still obviously very vulnerable. And they see us. We are big, powerful animals. And so, what choice does a parent have in that moment of seeing a gigantic animal approach their very vulnerable young, but to do something? And crows only have so many options at their disposal. So dive bombing is really their most effective strategy.
Right. So this makes sense to me. As a parent, I want to let my child go out into the world and do his thing, but I am watching, right? I'm watching. So crows are watching their vulnerable young What should we be looking for if we're trying to identify a baby crow?
Great question. So the most obvious features are going to be eye color. Baby crows have blue eyes. Oh. When they hatch, they have blue eyes. They'll transition to brown towards the end of summer, but they're quite bright, actually. They also have a bit of pink at the corner of their mouth, and they've got that awkwardness about them that betrays their naivete. So you can kind of judge that too. But as I was saying, it's really common for crows to leave the nest before they're completely flighted. And unfortunately, because so few people know that, hundreds of crows are accidentally brought into wildlife rehab centers every year and essentially abducted from their family groups. So if you see a baby crow and it's running around on the ground, if it's not in any immediate harm from being hit by a car, being attacked by a pet, please just leave them be. Mom and Dad are taking care of them, and even if you can't see Mom and Dad right now, I promise they will be back within the hour.
That's really tempting to do, Kaeli. I'm glad you brought that up because obviously we do care about our crows and our wildlife, and we want to do the right thing. I've lived here for more than 20 years. We have a lot of crows in the city.
Yeah, we absolutely have a lot of crows. And the sort of biggest reason for that is that we have a lot of people and our city is expanding. Crows actively seek out human development because it really creates the ideal environment for them.
Which is what?
So to make a crow happy, it's a pretty easy list. They don't want, large intact traces of forest. They want developed landscape like this that has things like industrial lawns and parks. The industrial lawn is a bane to the natural world. There's very few animals that can utilize it, but crows can. They're among the few. They like our garbage cans and the way that we litter. And they like that we do like to leave trees, right? Looking around, this is a beautiful park. I see all these houses, and the houses are dotted by what are clearly very old and tall trees. And that is perfect nesting habitat.
What you're telling me is really interesting because I have lived in the same place for 14 years now, and we have tons of crows. Like, there's a time at night when they will all come in and roost for a little while before they take off, and I know they're going up to Edmonds, right? But they're predictable that way. And I also see them quite frequently when I'm out in the yard. We know each other, and I have never been dive bombed by a crow. Does that mean something?
It's probably more luck than anything. It's possible that, they're so familiar with you and they've never had any negative run-ins with you that they've just learned that, you're a benign presence in the neighborhood. But I've gotten enough emails from incredibly distressed crow feeders, people who have dedicated themselves to feeding crows, who've said, I feed these crows every day, and I saw their kids, and I was so excited, and I went out, and they dive bombed me.
They turned on you.
Why did this? I thought we had a deal. I thought they knew I cared for them. As much as I have dedicated myself to getting into the heads of crows, I have my limits for always being able to explain their decisions.
Yeah. Well, the dive bombing thing is real, and it's kind of scary, right? What should I know if I'm out as somebody who's walking in the neighborhood? Because I don't fear my crows, but you're telling me now that they could turn on me at any minute.
I am telling you that they could, in theory, turn on you at any moment. But here's the good news. Direct contact where they draw blood is really uncommon. We see that a lot more often in nesting barred owls and nesting great horned owls. Those are birds they'll get you. So it is intimidating when you get that whoosh right over your head and kind of feel that breeze. It's effective, right? That's why they do it. But it's very unlikely you're actually going to get injured. Now, it is still, jarring and maybe not the best part of your day. So if you have a pair that's, nesting outside of your home or where you work, and this is becoming a really regular occurrence, my best advice is to carry an umbrella when you go outside. It's very simple and it's really effective. And there she is. There's Ferdinand. So if you look, where that crow just landed.
You have such a trained eye, Kaeli.
There she goes.
There she
just
goes.
Flew away.
I see her. Oh, wow, she is. She's cappuccino colored.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
How amazing.
Beautiful crow.
I've never seen that. And of course, crows are so well studied here in Seattle. The UW really has the corner on crow research. And over the years, we have learned crows are very smart. They remember faces, right? Is it because we're so nice to them that they stay here?
It is because we are so nice to them that they, relative to other places across the country, do seem to have their guard down a little. So what I mean by that, for example, is if you go to the UW campus and you open up a bag of chips like that, you are going to have a little group. And in fact, I've walked through campus eating my Cheez-Its and had crows follow me from one end, just walking next to me from one end to the other. Now, if you live in a neighborhood where people are harassing crows or otherwise experiencing more negative conflict, you're not going to have those kinds of experiences. I wouldn't necessarily go so far as to say we have a culture of crows liking us in Seattle, but we have a long history that suggests that we are generally not going to be violent or harmful toward them. And so there's this kind of culture of a little bit more trust than we see elsewhere sometimes.
Yeah, it's really interesting because just as we were talking here, there was a guy who was walking along the path and there were 3 crows out on the grass and he pitched a few tidbits to him. You know, we appreciate our crows, it seems, just a little bit.
No, I absolutely agree. I think the Pacific Northwest, particularly Vancouver, Seattle, and Portland, our cities do have a culture of crow appreciation that doesn't necessarily exist in other parts of the country. And when I was doing my field work, which happened pretty ubiquitously across Seattle and Kent and Bellevue and all over, these surrounding cities, in almost every neighborhood I went to, eventually I discovered a crow feeder. So they are among us. They are living and working among us.
Well, they're striking birds, right? They're not, they do make themselves known because they're imposing with their size and their presence.
Absolutely. And, the message that I really like to relay to people is I'm a fan of all birds. I love all birds. And I think putting out bird feeders and attracting chickadees and juncos and Anna's hummingbirds, that's a wonderful experience that I encourage people to pursue. But there is something so incredibly unique about forging a friendship with a crow, because when you forge a relationship with a crow, you're not just sort of inviting a species into your life the way that a typical bird feeder allows you to do. You're really inviting individuals because crows are so long-lived. They can live to be anywhere between 14 and even 17 years old. They're also territorial, so they're going to be really predictably in specific spaces. When you go out to feed crows, you're feeding the same individual crows. And because they learn to recognize you, they'll start to approach you. And as that relationship forms over time, you inevitably get to know their personalities and their characteristics. And that is just an unbelievably fun experience to have with a wild animal.
I am not sure I'm going to look at the crows in my neighborhood the same way again after talking to you.
Right. That's
and
my
I'm
job.
a little more afraid of them at the same time.
That's the best feedback I can get. I so appreciate that, Trish, and I really hope that you do join us in the ranks of strange people who carry peanuts or cat food in their pocket to feed to the crows as we encounter them.
Dr. Kaeli Swift, bird researcher, crow expert. What a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to Seattle Now. If you liked what you heard, share it with a friend. A rate and review wouldn't hurt either. And check out KUOW.org to see photos of Ferdinand. There's a link in the show notes. Clare McGrane produced today's show. Our production team is Caroline Chamberlain Gomez, Diana Opong, and Jason Pagano. Matt Jorgensen does our theme music. Special thanks to Isolde Raftery and to everyone else who sent us their crow dive bombing stories. There were a lot of them. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you tomorrow.